Hey guys, good morning. It's a little bit after 11 o'clock. Today we have a similar topic to last week. We were talking about the evolution of the viola da gamba and the related instruments, fretted instruments into the violin family. Today we're going to continue sort of our conversation of that in a brief little lecture here about the way that the modern string instrument is used compared to the maybe in the 1700s and maybe like the classical period or even the romantic period, how it's a little bit different. When we started this series of lectures, we started by talking about the component of the evolution of music through the musical eras, starting with the Baroque era music, going into the classical, and then from the classical there was romantic, and then there was modern. In every era, there was a change in the way that music was composed, but also performed, the style in which it was done, the size of the ensemble, things like that. The stringed instrument family has always played a huge and a vital role in the production of music, predominantly in creating a specific kind of mood. And I want to share some examples that would be relatively familiar for most people. First of all, in the classical period, let's talk about the form of music. The form was very structured, it was very engineered, and it had sort of a formulaic or equation-based approach to it, and it was very for lack of a better word, it was scientific, it was well thought out and carefully constructed and arranged. In the Romantic period, we did away with this kind of thing, and we had larger scores, larger ensembles, bigger kinds of musics being produced and performed. And it was really good. It was an impressive change from the controlled sort of environment of the classical music. Then we get into modern music, and that's where I really want to talk about the use of the string instrument family, the violin, the violoncello, the bass, and its function today in most music. Now, in today's music industry, some of the largest music production facilities are producing music for movies or TV shows, video games, radio stations, and then there's the individual artists on a smaller scale. There's not a huge culture necessarily of modern works that are in the style of either the classic or the romantic period, as in having large orchestras and ensembles come together and play your music. We still do that, the symphonies will do that, and we do have more modern pieces trickling through there, but that's not a huge style for the string instrument today. Today, the predominant style for string instruments and a lot of the function of orchestras these days is recording movie and video game music, entertainment music. One of the most vital components of any orchestra or an ensemble is going to be what we refer to as the string section. An ensemble such as an orchestra or a symphony is going to be divided into a couple of sections. First, you have your keyboard section, which is going to be any keyboard instrument that you have. And oftentimes they lump the idea of maybe the harp or a dulcimer into this as well. So the piano, an electric keyboard, digital keyboard, harpsichord, if we are going to use one, a harp, those typically come into our string / percussion / a keyboard instrument group. Then there's the true percussion group, drums, timpani, bells, cymbals, chimes, things like that. Then we have the woodwind section, which is all of the wind instruments like the flute, the clarinet, the oboe, bassoon, things like that. There's the brass section, which has all of the big trumpets, tubas, trombones. Some orchestras will have saxophones, things like that. English horn, French horn. That all goes into the woodwind section, or I'm sorry, the brass section. Then you have your string section, which is all your violins, cellos, violas, basses. You may have some other assortment of stringed instruments as well. Occasionally, a symphony might have a guitar player if they're playing a piece of music written for guitar. Those are pretty rare, but those are the general sections of an orchestra and the different pieces that work together to create music. Now, not in all orchestras, surely, but in the standard orchestra, and I wish I had a whiteboard right here, or maybe I can get one of those pens. You know, I've seen them on on YouTube and stuff where you can just draw in the air and like the camera follows the pen tip and draws it and puts it up on the screen. So cool. I want one. I can't have one though. The next best thing would be a whiteboard, but I don't think would not be a good idea to draw on that. So in your standard orchestra, right in the center, in the middle, you have your conductor or your director. Sometimes there's a different name depending on where he is and what title he wants. But right at the center in the front, you have your conductor. He's the guy that stands there with the baton and waves it around and everybody does what he tells them to. Generally, right outside the conductor in the circle immediately, sort of semicircle in front of him, that is typically where the stringed instruments are placed. And there's a few key reasons for that. First of all, the stringed instrument is per pound, per capita, per volume, one of the quietest instruments in the orchestra. Think, trumpet, tuba, flute, bassoon, all of timpani, all of these instruments are going to be incredibly loud. The stringed instruments are generally not as loud on their own. As a group, yes, of course, they're very, very prominent feature in orchestras. But on their own, a single violin player, single cello player are not going to be very loud. So they typically go to the front of the orchestra. But there's another reason for them being in front too. There's a couple others. One of them being the way that the sound of stringed instruments comes through the air and hits your ears. It can help take all the other sounds and sort of sew them together, blend them together in a really pretty way, or in whatever way that you want to, really, but generally in a very, very constructive, very healthy way. It takes all the other sounds of the orchestra and puts them together. Another reason would be because they are one of the most visual groups of instruments in the orchestra. Everybody has bows that move left and right, hands and fingers that move back and forth as they're playing, or the cello or the bass, right? So there's a lot going on, and it's very visual. It's very easy to see what's going on, versus, a trumpet player is all going to be right in here, or a flute player, is going to be over here moving their fingers, but they don't have a lot of movement. The next most would be a pianist, and you would see their arms and hands and fingers moving around. But the string instruments are some of the bowed string instruments, I should say, are some of the most visual instruments that you can watch. And so from an audience perspective, it's great to have them in front so you can watch what they're doing, what their bows are doing, what's going on, all of that. Okay, the next reason that the strings go in front is also, and this might be biased, but they are generally the most versatile instruments that are going to be in an ensemble. Now, I do not want to detract from or take away from the quality or the value of other instruments, such as a French horn or a flute or clarinet. Any and every instrument is just as valid, as good, as useful, as productive as another. There's no better or worse instrument. But the way that the violin or the cello is set up, it can be played for a variety of sounds. And here's a few examples. Most people have seen Pirates of the Caribbean, right? You've seen the film, you've heard the track. At almost every point of the track, every piece of the soundtrack, you can hear this large sweeping string section. Most movies, right? Harry Potter, the series, Pirates of the Caribbean, any action adventure movie, you're going to hear it in there. So they can have this ability to be big and grand and this sweeping kind of sound. If you ever watched Alfred Hitchcock's movie, I think it was called Psycho. I think that was the name of the movie. You get this really rough, really abrasive, high-pitched, dissonant, sharp kind of sound from the stringed instruments, and it sets the mood up for the rest of the movie in particular, but for that particular scene especially. You have solo works that can be done, like Bach's Cello Suite, very, very pleasant, very tasteful little melodies put together. There are so many varieties of things that you can do with it: movie music, video games, things like that. If you want to create a specific mood or environment that to build the rest of your music on top of, the stringed instrument family is one of the go-tos for creating that in a simple but effective way. You can do it. I'm gonna preface this again. You can do this with any instrument, any family of instruments, any arrangement of instruments, but it's very easy as a composer to do with a string ensemble, a group of string players. Put it together, and right away you can create any tone, any mood, any emotion that you want to, simply and effectively. Another key part of our music today with the stringed instruments is that they can be modified. right? Just like a guitar, you can make an electric guitar, an electric ukulele. You have electric violins, electric cellos that can create similar sounds to their originals, but also you can modify that sound, tweak it a little bit, hook it up to an amp. You get some really cool stuff with that too. If you follow on YouTube stringed instruments at all, you've probably heard of Two Cellos. They've got some really brilliant arrangements of classic rock, heavy rock, metal sounds, metal songs on electric cellos or carbon fiber cellos, even regular old spruce topped acoustic cellos. There's lots of really cool stuff out there for the modern stringed instrument. Now, it was not always the case. A lot of times in classical or romantic music, instruments were limited to a particular style, a particular genre, or a particular method of playing. And fortunately today, not just with our stringed instruments, but with instruments in general, that's not the case. Especially in let's say, hymns and church music, now we have all sorts of instruments that would be used versus a lot of times traditionally it was accepted, it's only acceptable to have maybe the voice or a piano and voice or maybe piano and strings. Now you'll see entire bands, right? Another thing might be symphonic music. If you like the performer Sting, a long time ago, I don't even remember how many years ago, but he took his band and his music and they worked together with, I believe it was the London Symphonic Orchestra. I don't quote me on that one, not 100% on that one, but they worked together to record a lot of his music with a symphony. And we have all of those instruments working together to create this. And it was really cool. It was a lot of fun. Some other groups that do a really nice blend of old and modern techniques, tradition, and instruments would be Celtic Woman. They have a lot of really great arrangements of music and ideas and styles, and they all come together to create some really cool, mostly symphonic and vocal works. So the takeaway for today, some of the key elements and ideas that I want you to take away from all of this is: one, the modern string family, most instruments, but the modern string family is incredibly versatile. It can be used for a huge assortment and arrangement of musical styles, musical genres. It's a very easy instrument group to create specific moods, specific emotions, and evoke very primal responses from the ear, to get the ear to go, this is happy music, this is sad music. It's very easy to weave that together. It's an important visual instrument in our symphonies because we can see what's going on, but also it helps blend the rest of it together really cohesively in a really nice sort of way. Those are the three major takeaways that I want you to get from this. But again, I want to say a majority, if not all of our instruments today can be used in this way. I don't want to be too biased to the strings. I love the stringed instruments, the piano and the strings. That's my cup of tea. But any instrument can do it. You can have an army of saxophones, right? And you can create some really cool stuff with that. You can have a brass quintet, you know, trumpet, French horn, tuba, that kind of thing working together. There's for every instrument you can find a new style, a new genre, a new way of composing and listening to music. And so that is really fascinating. It's really cool. Now, for those of you guys who are collecting points for the point system, you have the opportunity, you can earn a point for my classes. And here's how you can do it. At the next class, the next class for me would be my Tuesday class. Sign in right at 12 o'clock and tell me the three main points, the main takeaways of learning, or not learning, I'm sorry, the effect that the modern string family has on music today. And you can earn 1 point. And it was the list of three things that I went through a moment ago. Number two, to earn a second point, if you can tell me how modern stringed instruments are different in approach to how we use them in maybe classical or romantic music, you can get a second point. And for a third point, if you would like to have a third one, let's see, you can tell me where the strings are placed in an orchestra. And you set up an orchestra where the strings go positionally. Okay, so those are the three ways that you can earn a point to be able to get an extra class with me. And then also I want to remind everybody who's watching this, our Summer Olympics kicked off yesterday, and you can start to begin to track your hours, your minutes practice, put them on your sheet. You should have gotten an email with some instructions and some ideas about Summer Olympics and a practice sheet to begin practicing your minutes. If you didn't have it or you didn't see it yet, make sure you let us know, let the office know, and we can get that email to you with that information. Or you can let us know inside your class, and we can send you all the links that you need to be able to look at the material and the content there. Now, maybe you saw in the newsletter, the email that went out as well, we have a couple of prizes that I'm really excited about this time around. We have an electric drum kit that you can use headphones to play. Really cool, expanding your instrument base. We also have a ukulele. So if drums aren't for you, we have a ukulele, and that's a fun instrument to learn. It's relatively easy. You can sing along with it. You can write your own music really well. Use it as a composition tool. It's a great little prize. And then we are doing again this year. We do have a Nintendo Switch available as well. So if you would like to earn those points, to earn those prizes, start keeping track of your minutes. Every video you can upload, or I shouldn't say every, but you can upload a video to Facebook, our Facebook page, 3 times a week of you practicing to get an extra 10 minutes of practice. All that information is going to be in that email as well. Ask your teacher in your class about that, and start tracking your minutes, keeping track of that. I hope you guys enjoyed today's lecture on taking a look at the stringed instruments and seeing how we use them today, the context that we use them in. Answer my questions for me to earn up to 3 points at my next class on Tuesday. Sign in at noon. If you missed that one, there's a guitar class at 3:30. Sign in right there. Let me know, or you can tell me next week when you sign in for a class at 11 o'clock. That works as well. Thank you guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you soon.